Mr.
Colton,
Andrew.
I am so excited. Yes, man, I'm so excited. We've got a great guest on here today. Are you excited about the show today?
Dude, I am so excited. I was getting up this morning. I was like looking over all the cool posts this guy's made, and I was like, oh, this is gonna be a good one. This is gonna be great.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I'm so excited. This guy is a father of 6. He's got one kid in diapers, and also at the same time, he's got one kid in college. He preaches that self-discipline is the best way to discipline your kids. And he teaches that the words that you say and speak to your children affect the entire trajectory of their lives. So we are so excited to welcome onto the show Nate Feathers. Welcome onto the show, sir. Yes.
Welcome, Nate.
Thank you. Thank you so much, guys, for having me on.
Well, first off, what is the name of what's it say on your shirt there? Calm is what?
Calm is the new sexy, man.
Man, I hope we get into that
is.
take. I hope we talk about some calm today.
Yeah, right? Yeah, it's that whole concept of, if we men would realize how our wives see us, they would see that they do like the six-pack abs. Because, I mean, if you're going to take a keg or a six-pack, they're probably going to want the six-pack. But if you can walk into, like, a toddler storm and be calm and stay calm, that is, my wife has told me that is the hottest thing I can do. And I'm like, I will do that as time as possible then.
Well, also you got that nice beard looking thing coming in there, so that's got to help on
That's
the
right.
6-pack abs and a sexy beard, And if you can be calm, that's a trifecta. You're a deadly match.
Right. That's right.
Well,
Love it.
let's jump in real quick. Your Instagram handle is Dads Don't Babysit. Talk about that for a sec. I know you kind of you started in 2022 becoming an Instagram influencer. You really started to jump out there. Did you start with that Dads Don't Babysit, or did that come along the way?
No, that actually was prior to everything growing the way it was. I actually I kind of find it insulting when people have said that dad is babysitting. I'm like, I'm not babysitting. What is this? These are my kids. It's totally different. Like, you pay a 16-year-old kid to watch your kids. That's babysitting. So then I'm equating myself to a 16-year-old kid watching somebody else's kids. But I had a friend who, at the time, I had 4 kids, and he had just had his newborn, his first son, and we were on the phone. And he said, "Hey man, if you hear the little guy, he's right by me because I'm holding him. I'm babysitting." And he went on for a second. I said, first time I got a chance to say anything, I was like, "Hey man, we got to just get this out of here. You are not babysitting. You are being dad. This is totally dad work." And so that was just something that came in, and I was like, I'll use that. And it honestly, after I started sharing dad stuff, it really kind of just made sense. But yeah, we definitely don't babysit. It's a totally different thing. And so I want dads to take on that role of, I'm a parent. You're not a secondary parent. That's also something that's frustrating. I'll say it's frustrating to me is when women talk, like wives talk like their husband, one, doesn't know what he's doing, or almost as if our society views men as second class parents. That's a frustrating thing for me too. I'm like, there's so much more to being dad that to me it's an insult to say that he's babysitting. So
I love it.
Yeah, that's good. And on your up on your Instagram bio, you talk about transitioning from traditional parenting or moving away from traditional parenting. How would you describe traditional parenting, and like what would you say is like the positive alternative to traditional parenting?
Yeah, sure. So traditional parenting, honestly, I think we all parent the way that we were parented, right? If you don't make any conscious decisions after you have a child, you will really just default to how you were parented.
That's so good.
Yeah. So for me, that tradition was, I grew up in the Westland church. My dad was a Westland pastor. No hit against the church, obviously, and obviously I think there's great things there. But because I was a pastor's kid, I went to what we called at the time in the 80s and 90s shut-ins, people who couldn't church. So we would do shut-ins. One of my dad's things was always children should be seen and not heard. And so that's traditional parenting. I think that when it comes to dads, we have this concept in the traditional mindset that you just do what I say. Like, I say something and it goes. And I honestly think that I had a lot of frustration as a dad starting off because that's the way I thought it worked. I thought I told you what to do and then you do it. because that's expected of me. And I don't know about most other dads, but having 6, I can say they don't ever really do what you say. And if they do it the way you were thinking you wanted them to do it when you told them how to do it, right? And so,
Yeah.
so traditional parenting to me is that I know you got to go back and forth on that authoritarian, but it's an authoritarian parenting where the kid is subservient to the parent. They're almost like a lower class in a sense. You are to respect your elders simply because they're older. You're to do what you're told, be seen and not heard. And the alternative to that is this kind of gentle parenting or permissive parenting, and that was a swing back, was anything goes.
Yeah.
Right? So
it feels like we've had that pendulum, almost like there was the greatest generation that came back from World War II, and it like swung this way, and then the next generation kind of swung, like we're almost reactionary to either being the exact same as our parents or the exact opposite of the parents, versus living in this place of tension of like there's some like, hey, kids do need to like listen to their parents and learn how to operate in a society. Like my dad always told me, if you can't control yourself, somebody else is going to have to. If you can't control your speed, eventually someone's going to put you in jail. If you can't control, how much you eat, you're eventually not going to be able to get up off the couch. If you can't control, if you can't control yourself, somebody else is going to have to. At the same time, he raised a leader that I was allowed to ask questions, and we had tensions and debates and thoughts and questions, and like, so learning those environments, but that tension, it's not black and white. And I think especially as men, we want this black, white, yes, no, here, there, type answers.
Absolutely. That whole concept of, I don't know if you guys ever got it, but it was like end of discussion. That was the last was said. End of discussion. It's done. And that used to drive me crazy. I remember being 16, hearing that, going into my room and like screaming into a pillow, like, I can't stand you. That kind of thing. A lot of that was probably teen angst and frustration from just being 16. But it's not exactly the way I want my kids to deal with a conversation that I have with them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There is a lot of taking from that old school style and knowing what you said. Like, if you speed, someone's going to slow you down. Someone's going to do something. You're going to get a ticket. You're going to lose your license. I was one of those. If you run your mouth and you're in the wrong place and a guy doesn't like it, you might get popped in the mouth. That's something that like teach. But like you said, the ability to question authority, if you don't give the ability to question authority for your kids, they will, and you want just obedience, well, you're going to have obedience. And when your authority's not there, which, you love your kids, some other authority, they will probably not question that authority because you trained them.
That's right.
So you need that free thinking ability and that leadership skills to say, I don't know why is this a rule? And that, in my opinion, is harder on the parents than it is on the kids. To give the ability to say, well, why is that a rule? And now I have to think as to why that's a rule, other than the fact that what you're doing is annoying me, right? Like I have to really have a reason, or I have to let that go. And that takes a lot of humility that I didn't have on the front end of the whole fatherhood journey.
The first of the six.
I'm curious, like, where did that come from? Kind of like, who taught you that? If your dad was a little bit more traditional parenting, did you kind of learn that over time, or was it like something like books you had read, or where did kind of like that wisdom come from into your life?
Sure. It's kind of funny. I think more so, I didn't read parenting books. It's so weird because I'm all about personal development, but that was something that I just thought, well, you're just a parent. Like, that's just what happens. So I thought parenting books were for a long time. I would say a lot of wisdom actually came from just looking back at, I had a moment where like the journey for me really started when my oldest went to college, and I was like, oh my gosh, it's over. I don't have the same relationship with him anymore. And I seriously had this moment of like life flashing before my eyes. And I thought to myself, I feel like I ruined everything. Like that was his. You only get one of them, and I screwed it all up because I was angry, I was frustrated, I was too. I yelled a lot. Like I spanked when he was younger. I probably spanked too long. Some of that probably came out of anger. I have no idea. Looking back, I'm just like, I was all bad. And I just said, I don't want to get to this point and then regret another one leaving the nest. I say that's when the student is ready, the teacher appears. That's when I found Dr. Shafali on, she did an interview with Tom Bilyeu, and you guys have ever heard of her or not, but I've listened to Tom Bilyeu and watched a lot of his stuff for years and had never seen her. And then as soon as I started thinking that way, that pops into my YouTube feed like it's got like attached to my brainstem or something. And I start watching this going, oh my gosh, this is it. It's conscious parenting. And that's the whole thing is, what do I want? I have to look to the end. The end result is I want to call my son up or my daughters up and say, hey, you guys want to get a beer? That's what I want. And I honestly, what I really want is them to say, I want to go get a beer with dad. That's what I want. And not because they know I'll pay for it, right? I want want to have. So that got me thinking, well, who do I want to emulate? Who do I want to follow? Who do I want to be like? And so I'm naming off these people and I'm going, well, those are not people that talk to me in a way that is demeaning. Yeah. Those are not people that treat others in a way that is disrespectful. And so all of that started to go. And then, Gabor Mate shows up in my feed. And I just start realizing that I have these books in my house from somewhere. Maybe my wife had these parenting books, but I start reading those and, you just start taking little things from each different, find them and.
It's funny. My dad says a lot. I have a really cool dad. My dad's amazing. He's actually the guy that I would want to go get a beer with and hang out. Neither of us drink beer, but we'd probably get scotch, some kind of whiskey or a great glass of wine. But he's truly like one of my best friends now. And he told me a lot growing up. He said, I'm not friends with you right now. I'm raising my best friend eventually. And sometimes that was coming on like when he told me what to do or when there was like that situation, that tension when it came down to like the arm wrestling matches. Type situation, because as a young man you have that testosterone, you got the the aggression. He's like, I'm not raising, like, I'm raising a future best friend, and I have to keep that in mind. And as a future best friend, I can't let you do this right now. As a future best friend, I have, like, you have to make these better decisions and stuff. So but he talked a lot about like when you go to school, or like when you go, before you can get your driver's license, you have to go through driver's school. Before you get, you have to pass these certain tests. You have to. He's like, it's crazy. We could just pass out marriage certificates, and you can walk out of the hospital with a baby, and there's no certificate. There's no like, did you pass the test? There's no test. He's like, this is crazy. Like, you just sign on a dotted line, and all of a sudden you're married. He's like, there's a lot of things you should know before getting married, and it's not required. Like, you should go through some counseling beforehand, like some premarital, how do you handle conflict? What are your thoughts about finances? How many kids do you want to have? Like, you can just get married and not answer any of the big questions. You can have a kid. I remember walking out of the hospital with my first daughter. She was born, and I'm like, oh my goodness, this is crazy. I'm just walking out of here with this little, 7-pound being that's like looking at me for all the answers on how it's gonna live, but there's no manual. Nobody came with a manual. Now all of a sudden, like, I'm comparing and talking, and I'm like, I don't know, they pooped black stuff. I don't know what that even means. You know what this is? Like, what is this about? Anybody got a grid? You just like figure it out as you're going. But there's no like class. There's no course. There's no driver's ed. Hey, by the way, this is what the stop sign means. This is what this looks like. There's no class. It's crazy that we as a society don't have classes on some of these things. And so each generation has to almost figure it out for itself. It's building with new blocks that it didn't learn what those blocks were. It's pretty crazy.
I think actually that whole concept of like default parenting, where you're going to parent the way you were parented, that's your manual. So beauty of this moment right now, like when I'm talking to dads, I go, we could change the face of fatherhood in one generation. Because if we do consciously if we can do this consciously, our sons and daughters, and as a dad, I'm saying our sons will do this unconsciously for our grandkids, and that will just continue. But if we are willing to say, hey, look, I don't know everything. I mean, I've sat down with the oldest at one point. I was like, look, dude, I've never been in 8th grade. I've been to 8th grade, but I've never been a dad of an 8th grader. I don't know what to do here. Yeah. So I'm just as green as of a father of an 8th grader as you are in 8th grade. I don't know what to do either. All I can do is tell you what my experience was and be here
to some degree. It's almost unrelatable. I was talking to my to actually a friend about this the other day. I'm like, the generation I'm growing my son up in, like this new generation is different from the generation that I grew up in. Like for me, the day I turned 16, I went and got my license. Because to me, my license and my car represented freedom. It represented connection. It represented community. And I talked to so many kids today. I talked to all these teenagers, and they're like, yeah, I got my license later. I got my license at 17, 18. It didn't really matter. You know, my parents drove me here, drove me there. And I'm like, but didn't it represent like community? Like, how do you connect with your friends? They're like, oh, I just FaceTime them. I just call them. Like this cell phone is almost like as exciting. Like they got their cell phone. Like that is connection. That is community. That is being like this new generation that's coming up. And I'm only 30, so it's like I'm not like this old guy that's like when I was a young man. But also technology is moving so fast. We can have this. We can have this amazing connection. I feel like by the time we're done with this, we're gonna be like good friends, Nate. And I've not actually like sat down and had a beer with you. I've not actually sat down and had like a real like thing. But we had like this connection, this camaraderie, and I didn't have that. And with the pros of that, there's also the cons. And so we are almost starting with a new manual that our parents are like, I don't know, I didn't have to deal with, pornography being accessible 24/7 at such a young age. I didn't have to deal with, bullying at 24 hours a day. I didn't have to deal with, like, there's like certain things that we're like first gen on. Nobody's ever dealt with some of these things as dads.
Yeah, you're so right. I've literally said to my older two, my oldest is 20 and my next oldest is 17, should be 18 in October. But I have literally said to my oldest, I do not envy you at all in this stage of your life.
Yeah.
I look back at my career and I'm like, dude, it was awesome. I mean, I graduated high school last century kind of thing, right? So yeah, right. So it's like we had none of this stuff, and I would go back there, no problem. But I would never be a teenager today because there's so much they deal with that we just didn't have. And you're right. A lot of this is I don't know. I mean, I literally with my daughter, Snapchat's the thing, right? The age, they don't text each other. So now you have a phone, which to me used to be corded and attached to a wall.
Yeah.
And the only thing you could do with it was talk on it, right?
Yeah.
So now then it went to, I remember when texting came through, one of my friends was like 4 years younger than me. And he took on the texting thing. He's like, Nate, you just got to get the 250 texts a month. Just do that. And I'm like, dude, why would you text me? Like, so impersonal, And now someone like my voicemail should say, seriously, you couldn't text me? I don't understand. Like, that's where I'm all the way to that side of it. But like for them, Snapchat is the thing. They don't even use their for calling or texting, all the other stuff. And that app specifically scares me to death. Like I am not a fan. The start of that was for, in my opinion, various purposes. Yeah. And I have no trust in that. And
there's no accountability. There's no connection. There's no it deletes everything. It goes through so fast. So there's no there's no accountability to it. It's kind of done.
There's no consequences or anything.
Yeah, exactly. So that app specifically, the fact that the teenagers now are using that and my daughter does not have it. And she's like, Dad, everybody uses it. I'm getting left out. And I just told her, I'm like, look, I don't trust it. And I can't give you all the ins and outs other than I think you should probably watch some movies that have to do with sex, like the actual sex trafficking. That's where my head goes to everything. So I'm like, that right terrifies me. So that's why I'm saying no. I'm like, but I need you to trust me that my job is to keep you safe and to like make sure that you make it out here into the world, not just a good human, but I can't even tell you the pain and suffering she would go through. But at the same time, as a dad, how I would feel if that were because I didn't do my job. Yeah. And I say, you have to trust me on this, but that doesn't mean that she doesn't miss out on stuff and feel the weight of missing out because I've said no. And that's something that I never would have gotten, at least not from that standpoint. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah. No, and I think like technology and just life moves so fast. Colton and I have talked about it on previous shows, but if you take like previous centuries, hundreds and hundreds of years ago, the amount that things change it used to take 100 years. Now it might take 80 years. Then it would take 60 years, 50 years. Now it's on a weekly, monthly, daily basis that life is just changing, constantly changing. There's new apps coming out. There's new social medias. As parents, there's new things to like look out for. There's new shows. Like if you allow your kids to watch YouTube, they're like, what are they watching on you? Like there's always now these just new things that we're trying to like kind of like keep track of and to understand and everything. But, I think social media is probably one of the biggest things, because it's now like it's not just a struggle for the kids, but it's a struggle for like us as parents as well. Right. So in one of your videos, you talked about, you said, I don't think balance is achievable. Like life balance is achievable. But you said life is full of rhythms, is what you said. And I've always heard and you kind of use seasons. There's always kind of seasons and times and everything, times for everything. That can be like extremely difficult as parents and now as kids get older. Because if you come home and you're on your phone and then the kid's on their phone, and then it's just there's no actual connection that happens. I'm just curious your take on that. I love that video that you made. I think that when you were up on a roof hanging Christmas lights, or you were doing something, and you were talking about this, and it was so good because it's so true. If we have expectations that for ourselves and our kids do for themselves, and when dad gets home from work, we're gonna hang out, we're gonna play, I always ask my son, I'm like, what did you do today? Because I want to have that interaction with him of like, what happened today? Tell me what you learned, what's going on, everything like that. So I'd love to hear what you have to say about like seasons and how maybe when that started in your life. When did you realize that, and how has it kind of impacted you to really embrace that? Like if I'm at work, then I'm 100% at work. And if I'm at home, I'm 100% at home.
Yeah. Yeah. It really does come back. It honestly comes back to the phone, because I run the flight business off my phone other than when I'm on the roofs. Right. So I can do the estimates. I like interact with the customers, everything from start to finish, other than putting the lights up, is on that. And like you said, if you've got social media and you're running a business, and you've got personal calls and texts and things like that. Plus, let's be real, sometimes it is nice to, like, I don't scroll TikTok. I scroll the TikToks my wife sends me, right? So I have like
that, which can be plenty. That can be plenty.
Yeah, that's enough.
Throw the phone, I'm out, right?
Yeah,
but
that's right.
Yeah. So what I noticed is, again, self-discipline is the best discipline for our children, right? So if I'm always like this on my phone, then that is how children see the world to be. And so it just would make sense that they want to do what I do, right? So then they're going to want a phone, or they're going to want something. My daughter walks around with a fake phone like she's talking to one of my wife's best friends. She's like, yeah, I'll be, who are you on the phone? Like, I'm talking to Laura. She's not. But like when they see that, and even the youngest, he's 3 months old. What's crazy to me is that if I will literally like mindlessly, I'll be doing something, and she'll be like, hey, will you hold the baby? If got him, she's gonna do something, whatever. Take him, pick him up, and I keep doing what I'm doing. His head is down and looking at me. I'm like, yeah. I mean, I'll just throw the phone. I'm like, no, dude, don't look at that. Don't watch it, because I'm teaching him how to be in the world. Yeah. And if I'm not, I'll teach him that that's what we do all the time. And so when it comes to the whole life, it was literally seeing my kids mirror back to me what I tend to do. And so in order to do that, I like what you said, you come home and you're like, well, how was your day? And like, what were you doing? And what was your favorite part? Like, that's what we do. So we have parts of our life that we guarantee that's not happening. And then the more I've done this, the more I'm just like, the phone gets put away, it's put up. There are times where I'll pick the phone up and be like, I'll go looking for the phone and be like, I don't even know where I put it, because I just
that's good.
Have it, which I'm glad for. But so like we'll do dinner is a no phone. Like for the little kids, it's a no toy zone. So there's no toy table. But for the olders, and I mean honestly, because Zeke isn't with us all the time, I'll be like, Zeke is the oldest. I'm like, hey dude, there's no phones at the table. And that's on me too. They all have the right to tell me that if I grab the phone for something, right, no phones at the table. You're right, and I got to put it up.
I like it.
I love it. Well, you're building their manual, like we talked about a minute ago. Like And I've never actually thought it's really cool that you said that like that. Like when you come home and if you're on your phone, you're building that like neural pathway in their brain of like, oh, okay, when I'm a dad, when I come home, then I just do the same thing.
Yeah.
You know, so when they get older and they go, but that's why it's so important that your kids see you in the gym, that your kids see you talking with your wife, that your kids see you being actively engaged when you come home. I thought that's really cool. So thank you for that. That was a really good point there.
When we first, before we got started here, we were talking about big wins for you. And I was like, I always ask that question because if somebody has like a book, I want to make sure we talk about their book. If they have this course, I want to talk about their course. If they got whatever they're doing, I want to make sure like, hey, like you took the time to come on our show. What you're saying is valuable. I want to shine light back what you're doing. You're like, hey, my biggest win is if I get a message from a guy that says, hey, you changed how I dad. And you're like, that's your currency. That's how you're measuring. That's your metric system. That your KPI, your key performance indicator right now is how many guys' lives am I affecting? And I think that's a huge KPI. And I think, you know, if you provide enough, I think Zig Ziglar talks about, if you provide enough value in the world, you're never gonna have to want for anything in your life. And I think you're providing plenty of value right now. But that phrase, you changed how I dad. I think that's a cool. I've never heard that phrase put that way, but that's actually how you exactly phrase it. You said you changed how I dad, and that idea of dadding is almost like a verb. Like I'm not being a dad. I'm dadding, and I think that separating even who I am from what I'm doing. I think that's a really interesting idea there. But if somebody follows you for a year, they're actively watching your content. They're going through. They're watching the stories. They're watching the reels. They're absorbing it, and they don't just like almost like a cow chews on chud, like uncut, like all day. They're just kind of like sitting on it and meditating on what you said and thinking through it. How would you want someone to change how they dad over the course of a year? If you could talk to that person today and talk to them 1 year from now, 365 days of watching your content, how would they change how they dad?
I think it comes back to the self-discipline. So I would want to see how they interact with their kids now and back then a year, in the sense of I quit yelling because it breaks the relationship with them. I decided not to be a dad who spanks because that breaks relationship with them. And I'm in this for the long haul, right? I'm in this for the end. I'm in this like you don't get out of dadding. There's one way out, right? And what I want for that is that on my deathbed, my whole family and all of their kids and all of the grandkids and all the great grandkids are like, this guy was the best thing that happened to us. That's what I want. And I believe with all my heart that when men are vulnerable and honest about it, that's what we hope for. That's what we see up here, right? And I even think that the dads that are hard and, in my opinion, cruel and mean and could change that, I think they want that. They're like, I'm doing this for you. Yeah. And what I want to see is them switch that mindset to go, I am doing this for you, so I've made different decisions. And so now the way that looks is I don't ever shut off, right? We men, women work in the workplace too, but I can say this, most of the time if you have one of the parents staying home, it's not dad. Right. And so goes to work or works in the home office, and we clock out. And moms are always talking about not clocking out. And I had this revelation and was like, wow, moms don't clock out, but dads don't clock out. You know, you're the guy that comes in and you step right into it, man. The house is destroyed because the kids live in it too. And that guy went from being the guy that goes, I just want to be on the couch. I'm tired. I clocked out and I'm done for the day. I want him to be like, sit in his car or his truck and be like, and now I've entered dad mode and here we go. And he does, like, he clocked out at one and he shifted into another gear because that's the man that your family deserves. That's the man that your wife deserves, because you come home and instead of being the guy who's another kid she's got to take care of, basically, you're in it, you know? That's how I want to see that their connection with their children is deeper and that their interaction with their family is stronger.
I love that.
I love that. No, that's great. I think I think it's a great example of like what people can learn if they go to your Instagram and to your page. I love you guys have that rule of no phones at the table. Are there maybe like 3 or 4, maybe 2 or 3 other rules that you guys live by that have like changed your life? Like, is there like maybe something you guys do every week as a family, date nights, anything like that you guys do that people can take and turn into action? Because that's a really actionable thing of like, just let's do no phones at the table. Let's do dinner together every night and no phones at the table. I love that. I love the actionable the piece of that. So is there any other things that you guys do that people that are watching can implement as well?
Yeah. One for me is I think we have a hard time. Like, we chose not to, like, not that we don't want to date, but we get little bits here and there. But that's because I don't trust other people with my kids, right? With the littles, and that's part of my crazy. But at the same time, I'll take it. And so we've both made that decision. So for us, we don't get a lot of that, but what we do is we take little mini things. So catching, like in my house, mama gets the last kiss on the way out. So I'll kiss all the kids, but mama's the last one. Even if they all need to have 5 or 6, mom still gets the last one. And she also gets the first one when I come in, because that's mom's. That's not my mom.
Love
that's
it.
that's my wife. So that's the relationship that in this instance, they're all going to leave the nest and go find somebody. And when it's all said and done, she and I still need to be here. And so, so she gets the way out and she gets the first one on the way in. That's an easy one, right? And to come home and be excited to kiss your own wife is fantastic. So I'd say whatever you got to do that. I think sometimes women feel like they take a back seat to everything, to just be able to say, oh no, mama gets the first one. Like the kids come running, all that stuff, I'll hug them, whatever, but mama gets the first kiss and then I'll interact with everybody else. She gets the first of all interaction. I think that becomes a big deal, probably even the more kids you have. So really focusing on your wife. The other thing is, I have 6 and people have asked me, how do you focus on them? How do you give them the time they need? I don't ever feel like I'm giving them all the time they need. But one of the majors I do is they always go with me. So sometimes it's Finn is my almost 9-year-old, and it's like I'm just taking Finn. Finn and I are going, and then even if it's just we're just going to the store, there's that time that we get to have just me and him, where we talk. He gets to talk about whatever, and I mean, you guys have kids, if it's just that, interact differently than it is with everybody else. They've got to be. They've got to be that bracket brother or sister, so they act a certain way. But when it's just you and them, they get your ear, and so nobody's interrupting them and all that. So they each get that possible. Just because
I love that. That's great.
My dad challenged me one time. He said, especially my son is a little quieter. It'd be easier for him to kind of get overlooked. My daughter, like she like grabs attention. She's very outgoing, very personable. If you walked in, she's just like bam, bam, bam. And so it's important, I think, intentionally, because I would naturally gravitate towards just giving my daughter the attention because she asked for it. She's a squeaky wheel. But my dad always told me, he said, don't leave the house with your car empty. Like, always take one kid with you. Always have it's a good kind of like mental rule of like, I made sure I have a car seat in the car ready to go for my 2-year-old, my son, because I'm like, hey, if I'm going, like if I'm going to Home Depot, if I gotta go get something real quick, if I'm like, hey, I gotta get some chicken for tonight for dinner, I'm gonna grab this. He's coming with me because that gives us that extra time together. And my daughter, she and I go on quarterly dates. It's really easy for me to give her the attention that she needs. And we just had our 3rd in February. So now I'm kind of, we went from man to man in our house to zone defense now. So I kind of get that. Like they can't all get equal attention. There's no 33% pie that's going to happen in the house. It's like, hey, this is what I'm giving, extra attention here, and kind of watching as the dad, watching those tensions.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. It's funny. Today, Meg said that Luna, she's our 3-year-old, she was having a real hard time. She's like, Luna's having a rough day, and she's just being, she's being a 3-year-old. But I said, yes, but Finley and Wyatt have each other. They're 7 and 8. And I said, and you have the baby, which ours was born in February as well. But I'm like, you have the baby. She used to be the baby until he came along. So there's a little bit of, I'm like, so the 3-year-old who needs attention, the boys leave her out, and you're not leaving her out, but you kind of leave her out because the baby. I'm like, that's why she gravitates to me. The moment I come home, it does not matter. She comes hauling from wherever she is, down the stairs, kitchen. I know I'm getting daddy, and she's running because she's kind of felt left out all day.
Yeah.
And daddy doesn't, right? I mean, she gets to be all the attention, all of that stuff, because everybody else has somebody they're paying attention to. So she gets all of me, like from right onset, and I'm like, hang on, we kiss mom, and then and all the things. she was like, man, she's having a rough day today, and I'm like, yeah, well, she's the odd one out today. And that's hard.
And sometimes not checking out just means noticing those things, because it'd be easy not to notice those things. It'd be easy to go to work, come home, go to work, come home, go to work, come home, and be like, hey, I built this amazing thing for us, we got all this extra stuff, we got this, and miss the fact that she doesn't have the attention that she needs. And I think that's super important to be able to recognize and like watch the sheep and how they're moving, and who needs that extra hit from dad.
Well, and the thing is too, I think in the midst of it, like I'm standing outside of it. I'm helping a friend, at a building today, and so I'm away from it. And my wife says that, and all of that clicks into place. If I were sitting in the house, I'd probably be really frustrated with her to a level because she's acting out, she's
Yep.
being whiny, she's being needy, she's poking at the baby and doing stuff to mess with the baby, like all the stuff that's making you like, what is your problem? But
Yeah.
because I'm sitting out of it, I can go, oh, well, she doesn't have anybody right now.
Yeah.
And it gave me the ability to say that to my wife, who probably instinctively knows that better than me, but also might just be too deep inside the forest. You know what I mean?
She's too in the storm to see the calm.
Exactly.
That's right.
I love it. I want to. We're almost running out of time, but I want to get one more thing that I think this is super cool, and I think a lot of guys really miss this. And I'm curious on your journey with it, but you seem to have remained to be a savage, my man. Look at this video. This thing is awesome.
Look at that guy.
Look at that guy, dude. I think if nothing else, you could pick up your entire family in one swoop here with the deadlift. I mean, that is a beast. Let's see if I can get this restarted here. Hang on. I mean, dude, that was just unbelievable.
How much weight is that? What is that?
It's got to be. Let's see. There's 3 plates.
Yeah,
Plus.
350.
350. I was gonna say the three plates plus 25. It looks like, or at least 15.
Yeah.
Dude, you're killing it. So talk about your
Look at
fitness,
that.
and more importantly, where are you working out? Is this your home like barn gym thing, or is this like a local gym here? What is going on here?
So that is my CrossFit gym. I coach at the gym, but that is actually CrossFit Mount Juliet. So not my barn, but we basically we built that barn. I mean, it's brand new. I think we just moved into it in maybe March.
Dude,
Something like
this
that.
is awesome. This is
It's like
such
a man cave of dreams. That's
it's a
incredible.
man
Look
cave
at
of
that.
dreams. Now you say
It's
Mount
so-
Juliet. That's not Tennessee, right? Not Mount Juliet, Tennessee, right?
Yeah, that's Mount Juliet, Tennessee.
No way.
Oh,
I lived.
sweet.
I grew up in Franklin, Tennessee. So I was the Franklin
Are you-
Cowboys versus the Mount Juliet Bears. So
There it is.
that's
Yeah.
cool, dude. That's cool.
Yeah, dude. But yeah, that's not my specific gym, but that's where I go for sure.
So you coach CrossFit then? I mean, that's pretty savage there, my man.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I keep saying, like, from my standpoint, I don't want to look at everybody and say you don't have any excuses, but I mean, you got to get up early if you want to go do this stuff. I mean, this from being, but the sun is up here at 5 a.m. So,
Yep.
But I hit the gym early because I don't want to take away from the fam. But I also, that's my therapy right there. You know what I mean? Like, for real. In days where my wife's like, you need to go to the gym right now. You didn't make it, and you need to get there right now because you're not nice. Dang it.
Nice.
Absolutely right. And I'm like, shoot, I'm being a jerk. And so that is, to me, I heard somebody say that lifting weights is therapy and the food is how you get like shredded. I totally agree with that. That is,
Yeah. I think
That's so
lifting's for
good.
the mind, if nothing else. It keeps the mind right. Because especially as men, we got all this testosterone, and if you don't, then you need to look at that. But I think it's important to, like we have this like raging testosterone. I remember when I was like you're talking about raising in 8th grade. I remember being in middle school and like I just wanted to break things. Like I remember looking at a plate. I specifically remember this. I wanted to like get this plate and just smash it one time, and I'm like, whoa, that is not like that is not
What is wrong
emotional.
with-
There is a chemical reaction in my brain that is making me want to smash things right now. I just wanted to break something. I wanted to destroy things, and that didn't really go away. It might have dimmed to some over time, but like I think the weightlifting really helps with that. It helps keep that inner, in a good way, the inner monster in check, which is good.
yeah, I always go back to that. Like, if I don't train for it, I think I was even saying in that video, you have to train the savage, but like, because if you don't, when you need him, he won't be there.
Yep.
Right.
Mm.
So I'm the same guy that's like, be gentle with your family, be the kind, respectful, and loving. Like, I want to be the biggest teddy bear, but like, I also want that, like, if you come through my door, that's not the person you're meeting.
Yep.
You're meeting
Mhm.
an animal that will destroy everything that is whoever you are. Because my kids and my wife, my family is the most important to me. So, but if I've never done any of that stuff, if I can't fight, if I can't shoot, if I can't hurt somebody, I'm not really like, what do I do if something happens?
Yeah.
And
Right.
that nothing ever happens. But,
I think it was Jordan Peterson. I don't think he actually came up with this quote. I think he's quoting somebody else, but it's a good quote nonetheless. Jordan Peterson said, I'd rather be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think it's important to maintain that warrior, that in you, like it's something you have to maintain. You have to train for that. You have to have some kind of combatives. You have to have, know how to use a gun. I think that's an important piece. I think you need to be lifting weights. Cameron Haynes always talks about, don't let the hunt. He's a big hunter, famous hunter. He's like, don't let the hunt be the hardest part of your year. Make sure you're training so that the hunt is the easier part of your year. And I think, when the situation arises, the savage, if it's not trained, it's not going to come out. But you need to be able to have that savage. It's important.
Yeah, it's that same concept of like, I'd rather need it, not like have it, not need it, than need it, not have it. I mean, you could say that for a winter coat. I say the same. If I don't train him, then I have nothing to call on when the time comes. The crazy part is, the more you train for it, the less likely it is to happen. I mean, this is not to toot my own horn, but I don't look like a guy you want to just come mess with.
Yeah.
And I like that when I'm walking around with my kids, they're like, leave that guy alone. I want that. I want the guys that want daughters to be like terrified to find out. Like I want them to be afraid, and not because I'm mean, but just because I look mean. Like, he's really nice, but dang, he's kind of scary. Yeah. I want that. That's enough for me, is to be able to look at them and say, for however long it is, like she's 16. For 16 years, I've taken care of this girl, and I'm about to let her get in your car. And so I have to hand that off to you. And if you mess with it, I'm coming for you. Like, I want that to be sitting in his mind the whole night.
Yep.
So good.
So good.
Love it.
Nate, this has been an amazing conversation. I love this so much. And I do think you and I are going to be good friends. I love this conversation. I love what you're standing for. Guys, make sure you go to Instagram and follow Dads Don't Babysit, because they don't. We don't babysit. We are parents, and not just co-parents, not just backseat parents. We are parents. We're dads. And I think the dad role is the most overlooked. Whenever you watch movies, he's always portrayed as some dumb imbecile who doesn't know what he's doing. And I think we need to, in one generation, that's the challenge. In one generation, we need to change the connotation of what it means to be dad, to be a positive thing, and to be the place of identity. The kids can get that source of identity from, that we tell them who they are, and raise them well. So I think you're a great follow. Guys, make sure you go Dads Don't Babysit on Instagram. Watch the stories. Make sure you follow. Watch these reels. And he's a great follow. So Nate, thank you for coming on the Alpha Dad Show. You're a total Alpha Dad, and we appreciate you.
To celebrate the new year, we're having the biggest sale ever on overstock clearance and brand new products. For example, save 60% on our Goose Down comforters, the best comforters ever. They go perfectly with our MyPillow bed sheets and duvet covers. Save 25% on our brand new kitchen towels. They're made with the same technology as our famous My Towels. Our initial quantities are extremely low, so get them now before they go. Our seasonal flannel sheets are finally in. You save up to 50%, and they sell out fast every year, so order now. They're truly the best flannel sheets you'll ever sleep on. Or save up to 80% on all our clearance items. And this is where it gets even better. For a limited time, your entire order ships absolutely free. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use that promo code to get deep discounts on all MyPillow products. And for a limited time, your order ships absolutely free. When I started MyPillow, it was just a problem solution, one product company. Well, since then, with the help of my dedicated employees, we now have hundreds of products, some you might not even know about. To get the word out, we're having a $25 extravaganza. 2-pack multi-use MyPillows, $25. MyPillow sandals, $25. And for the first time ever, our 6-pack towel sets, you guessed it, just $25. Our brand new 4-pack dish towels, $25. And I've never done this before. Premium MyPillows with all new Giza fabric, any size, any loft level, even king size for only $25. And there's so much more. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code for our $25 extravaganza. Order $75 and over, your entire order ships absolutely free. 8 years ago, we developed and launched the best bed sheets ever. Since then, you've all enjoyed the best sleep of your life. And to thank you all for your support, we're bringing you our bed sheets for the lowest price in MyPillow history. Get our seasonal flannel sheets for 50% off. They're nearly sold out, so get yours today before they're gone. Check out our new Percale line. Queen size only $39.98. King size only $49.98. And our famous Giza Dream bed sheets, queen size originally $139.96. Wait on it. Now only $59.98. King's just $10 more. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to get huge discounts on all MyPillow bed sheets. And for a limited time, when you order $75 or more, your entire order ships absolutely free. We have very low quantities at these prices, so order now.